Def Leppard formed in Sheffield in England in the late 1970s. In the 1980s, they became the biggest commercial rock band in the world. Their sound was always hard rock, but their ace card was their pop sensibility, their expansive production, and of course their layered choruses as well. And to date, Def Leppard have sold over 40 million albums worldwide. But outside of music, the Def Leppard story is one of triumph as well as tragedy. But now, in the late part of the 1990s, with Joe Elliott and Rick Savage still at the helm, Def Leppard are as big and as bold as ever. Okay, boys, 1995 Def Leppard. What's been happening?
Everything.
God.
Where do we start?
Well, we started out in Spain. At the beginning of the year, we were in Spain for most of the year, actually, making our new album, which is called Slang. And then as we were kind of coming to a close on all that lot, we got this greatest hits offer thrown in our lap. Did we want to do a greatest hits album? And after initially saying not at all, because we're really focused on the new album, it more and more became a good idea, you know, to kind of close off that 80s chapter of the band once and for all, because the new album is a bit of a slight departure to anything we've done in the past. And it would have been a bit silly to do a greatest hits after that record, so we figured, let's do it now, and it's a good time to do it. I mean, it's always been an ambition to do it anyway, and it just seemed like a good idea. So then we went over to LA for a while and started doing photo shoots and videos, you know, all the usual things that come with a new album.
Was it easy to pick the songs for the greatest hits album?
It was difficult for us because it came right in the middle of doing the new album, and that's what was the distracting thing. I think if it just happens out of the blue when you're not doing anything else, it really is easy. I mean, the songs speak for themselves. You don't even have to pick the songs, because whatever was a hit somewhere around the world, then it qualifies for the record. So that part was easy. It's just that we were so focused into doing the new record, and then you have to start thinking about the album sleeve, the artwork, the video, and everything detracts away from your original goal, which was finishing the new record off.
Why did I think that this time round you just might, that there was always a possibility that what you might do is get an album out quite quick in some ways? Because you've been taking so long, and you've all been in your own little countries doing your own little bits and pieces, and it's so long since 1978 or since High and Dry or since whatever at the beginning of the 80s. I thought you might do it this time, and you were looking for an excuse to get in the way to bring out an album too soon.
Yeah, probably. I can't defend anything that you've just said there.
We honestly go into the studio with the best of intentions, and it's, you know, a lot of the songs are written. It's not that we're not prepared or anything like that. It's just that as time goes by, we like to tinker and change things.
We get bored quick with what we're doing, and we also see room for improvement in something, and rather than going, that's fine, it's like, well, yeah, it's fine, but fine doesn't make it. You know, fine finishes second. It's got to be better than that, so we're going and, you know, redo stuff.
When you made Adrenalize, which was like, had some stuff, first of all, at the beginning, of Steve Clark's stuff on it, I thought that was the ending in some ways or something, because you got rid of that and did it all again without Steve being on it, isn't that right? Well, so therefore that was like the closing of a chapter of Def Leppard in one way as well.
It was only till quite a while afterwards that we realised, with a lot of recording of Adrenalize, we were kind of going through the motions. It took us longer than we think, I think, to actually come to terms with Steve not being there. And we'd had a lot of the songs, but the recording of it was very mechanical, and a lot of the artistic side of it kind of got a little bit lost, I think, you know.
Do you think you were too quick going in? Do you think, like people say, there is a mourning period?
We didn't actually, it wasn't a case of being too quick going in. We were actually still in there.
Yeah.
We never came out. We just carried on, which is kind of, it may sound callous, but it wasn't really.
It was probably a mistake just from our point of view, you know, but it was our way of dealing with it. It was like, I think we wanted to just carry on and function. Once we decided that the group wasn't going to split up, and we came to the conclusion that Steve would have wanted us to carry on anyway. It was our way of dealing with it, was just getting straight back into work. And it maybe helped us get over the loss of Steve, but from a musical point of view, he probably didn't do as much favours, really.
We were more happy to get it finished.
Yeah.
That was the thing. We didn't want to go through that hysteria thing again, spending like 3 years making a record. You know, once we actually did get fired up and going, we were about 8 or 9 months making that album, which for us is like pretty fast, you know.
Pretty fast,
and we were just glad to get it out, and it was almost like it wasn't an artistic statement by any means. It was an exercise in just finishing a job. We almost felt like architects or something. You're like, here's the plans, build the house. There's not a much emotional connection to it, you know. It wasn't, I designed it and I built it brick by brick. Even though we did all the work and we wrote it, it was definitely...
It was like painting by numbers.
You know, really. it was get it finished so we can get on with the band's career, get on with our lives, and put this, because we knew as soon as we put it out, as soon as we started doing interviews and things, the whole thing, Steve thing will come up, we'll be talking about it forever.
For a band who have been very focused, my point is that, like, something's gone seriously wrong every couple of years.
Yeah, but it's not anything to do with the music of the band. You know, it's like Steve's personality was the way it was, and it was very addictive. He was a very shy person, and for him to feel as confident about life in general as, say, me and Sav, he needed 4 drinks, whereas we only needed 1. And, you know, and to make him normal, he had to be abnormal. He had to be over the top. You know, he was so shy, he couldn't actually function sober as a human being, you know. But when he had a drink, he had the confidence to go into the kitchen and cook himself breakfast. He'd have to have a whiskey to do that, you know. He was that kind of person. Now, we can't determine or dictate the way that people are in a band. There was a great musical chemistry there, but unfortunately, from Steve's point of view, there wasn't like the human chemistry you need to like stay level-headed. So we'd forever be having to say, you can't do that, you know. And then the band gets sidetracked a little bit because because we're like a family almost and we care about each other, you spend as much time, if not more, trying to keep somebody on the straight and narrow, and then all of a sudden it's like, actually, shouldn't I be like maybe encouraging him to like write better songs? And all of a sudden, all you're trying to do is like get the guy to actually function as a human being. It's like, he should be able to do that on his own.
Well then, to be blunt, in the studio...
Quite
all right, well then here it goes. In the studio, I mean, was he embarrassing?
No.
No, never.
Never.
No.
Not at all. But getting him in the studio was the hard part. He was embarrassing from 11 p.m. onwards.
Yeah.
You know, but we wouldn't necessarily be there. We'd hear about it the next day. And half the time he was fine. But when he went over the edge, he went right over the edge. He was in and out of rehab all through that period of 89 to 1990. And it came to a point where it's like, well, we can't function as a unit with him like this. So we had to become a 4-piece and become a unit again. So we gave him time off. We didn't fire him, as has been, you know, sometimes has been mentioned in the papers. We gave him a complete bona fide 6-month leave of absence. You come back if you want to, come back when you're ready. We will get on with making the record as a 4-piece. Unfortunately, he died 4.5 months into that 6-month period, you know.
Was there a specific time when you noticed that Steve Clark had gone just one step too far? And when was that, if there was one? Was it only when it
We'd
happened?
seen things from day one.
But that's
Really?
the thing, I don't
But
think
you,
there's
wait,
anything
hold on a second,
specific.
Rick. You sacked a guy from the band for the same thing.
Did I?
Yeah, well, I mean, well, you two did, yeah. Pete Willis.
There's a big difference here. Pete Willis
Steve was a
had
nice guy.
Exactly. Pete Willis had a drink problem. Pete Willis became a really obnoxious person when he got drunk. And Steve...
Also, Steve, in actual fact, I don't remember Steve ever going on stage and not giving his best.
Yeah.
It was always giving 110% on stage, and with a relatively clear head.
Yeah, he never went on stage drunk.
Never.
Not as far as I can remember.
He may have left the stage drunk, but he never went on stage drunk.
He always was focused when 9 p.m. came along. He was ready to do it. He was always ready to do it.
The Let's Get Rocked video. The whole idea of getting that one together and how you approached it and what you wanted to do. I mean, how much did you have to do with that? Did you feel like a total prat running upstairs with nothing in your hand and all this sort of thing?
It was a bit weird. It's like we've said in the past. It's similar to, I guess, what Bob Hoskins had to do in Who Framed Roger Rabbit, you know? It's like, well, there's going to be a staircase here, so just pretend you run up a staircase. And of course, not being an actor, I'm very conscious of the 4 of them stood at the side of the stairs, 3 of them, sorry, at the time, going...
You mean you're not going to go into movies, Joe?
No. I nearly did, actually.
Did you?
I nearly played Sean Bean's brother in When Saturday Comes, this new soccer movie.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
But I didn't. We did.
That's Sheffield United, isn't it?
Yeah, we did it, yeah.
Let's not.
Say no more.
Sheffield
We did a
United.
couple of songs for the soundtrack instead. But
like,
it was awkward.
And did you just trust this guy to make the video?
Well, we had to, and his track record was pretty cool. I mean, he'd done the Ninja Turtles movie, which is like you can take it or leave it, but he'd done the Money for Nothing video and he'd done the Hard Take on Me video, and those were breakthrough videos.
They really were.
And we thought, okay, well, maybe it's, you know, this could be a breakthrough video for us. And it was a 9-week video of which we were involved for 48 hours.
Yeah, right.
And so it's like, you know, we believed in the guy and we went with it.
And like the subject matter of the song, if people start getting into Def Leppard songs, do you say, look, it's just rock and roll music, it's no big deal, like this was a Simpsons thing, as you said before?
Well, yeah, I mean, that was our answer 3 years ago. Now, at the age of 36, I wouldn't write that song.
Yeah.
Because you can't be 17 forever. But it was us getting into character. It
No,
wasn't
but
us...
you can watch The Simpsons and then write a song.
Well, yeah, which is, you know, I mean, we kind of did that a bit. It wasn't, you know, strictly about The Simpsons. It was just in that vein, you know. It could have been Beavis and Butthead or Scooby-Doo for all it matters. It was cartoon. I mean, it was a joke. It's a stupid song, but, you know, in its defense, it's supposed to be stupid.
You know, it's tongue-in-cheek. It's
Well, yeah, but you'd be amazed how many people didn't get it.
It also, it was hard when the timing of it coming out, although it did quite well in England and in Ireland, I believe. In America, the whole wheel was turning, and all of a sudden, it wasn't cool to try and have fun. There was the whole social scene was changing. Nirvana, Pearl Jam were breaking, and people were actually getting miserable. And you know, for whatever reason, right or wrong, if it had come out 2 years earlier, or even a year earlier, I think it would have been looked at in a different light. It would have been taken for what it really was, which was basically just a bit of a joke.
When I was talking to Bon Jovi on this program, I said, like, I use the ultimate example of the American dream. In some ways, like, the story of you going through Sheffield and the famous place where all the sort of harder rock bands played, and you in the pouring rain and no money in your pocket and walking home, did you actually write on the wall, Def Leppard will play here someday? Yeah. You did that?
Actually,
so are you
it
the
was
story?
even more accurate than that. I said Def Leppard will play here in 1980.
All right.
And we did, and we sold it out.
Right.
But you didn't name the
Listen,
month of the
speaking
day.
of,
Yeah,
okay,
really.
on that level, I mean, like, you weren't exactly overnight success. Like, it was pretty damn quick. So you could have actually gone down the tubes in the way bands did, say, 15, 20 years before that. Like,
Of course we could.
It was definitely very quick for you guys, right?
Yeah, it was.
Oh,
Yeah,
come on.
compared to most groups,
Yeah.
it was. Yeah, I mean, we did a concentrated amount of hard work in a short space.
Yeah.
So in many ways, it didn't seem like overnight success, but looking at it from the outside, yeah, we formed in 1978, and we had a recording contract by the end of '79. That's pretty quick.
Yeah.
You know, for a band that were 18 years old. Yeah.
To us at the time, it seemed like a long time, because 18 months when you're 17, 18 years old is a lot longer than it is when you're my age.
Yeah.
We couldn't get it big enough, quick enough. It was like...
Well, it went very big then with AC/DC.
Well, it
Yeah.
did, yeah, and we loved every minute of it. It was... We felt comfortable, and the bigger things got, the more comfortable we felt. We really did. Yeah.
We grew up in this era of like seeing Slade on Top of the Pops for the first time in 1971 doing "'Cause I Love You," and then 2 years later they're still there, having had about 10 number ones.
Yeah.
And well, it's like that seemed like normal to us. You know, it was very normal. We'd heard all about people like the Animals and the Kinks and all these 60s English bands. They just appeared from nowhere, and they were big because there was nothing to stop them.
Yeah.
The myth could spread, and it would be word of mouth, and there was nothing in a negative sense from a critical point of view. There was no MTV where you get your personality over in 5 minutes, people are bored by the afternoon. You know, you didn't even necessarily know what Eric Burdon looked like, and you might have been buying Animals records for 4 years. You know, so, I mean, quick, yeah, but to us it was very natural the way it all went. You actually, maybe when you're 16 or 17, kind of half believe that's the way it goes. For us, it did. So it's like, well, we can handle this, because this is all we've been taught from what we've watched and read or listened to. So we do our first EP November '78. It comes out January '79. We have a record deal by August. We have the album out by March the following year. We're touring America that summer. We've been second on the bill at Reading, come the end of the summer, and up till then it was normal. That's when, at the end of that first album, it kind of hit us like, okay, now what? Because the first album was songs we've been playing live for a year,
Sure, yeah.
bang, bang, bang. Now we've got to write 10 brand new ones. So all of a sudden it's like, this is a reality check, and it's boom. And we were quick learners because we'd gone through that period so quickly. We didn't get overly arrogant about it at all.
Yeah.
But we did realise we had a lot more to learn.
Yeah, but
We
how about
learned
this
that
for a
pretty
reality check? I mean, 40 million albums later, and I just told you that there you were, writing your name on the wall saying, we're going to play here. That's a pretty good reality check, isn't it?
Yeah.
Beat that.
I mean, you know, it's one of those things. We'd been rehearsing down at Bramall Lane. I had no money for a bus fare home, and it's a good 7-mile walk.
Yeah.
And by the time you get halfway there, which is where the city hall is, and you're bored and pissed off and cold and freezing, and you find a piece of chalk, and you've had a good night's rehearsals, and you're really happy, and you think you're the best thing ever. An idiot like me, right? We will play here in 1980 because that was ambition and determination from our point of view.
What about this new album then? What are we talking about here? Like, will we know it's Def Leppard, no problem?
I would hope so. Yeah, I mean, we're not going to go such left field that it would be like a complete reinvention. There's a sound to that Greatest Hits album that is very much 80s orientated. We want to move on from there. It's not appropriate to make that type of record in the 90s, we don't think. The songs, yeah, the songs have still got to be good. The songs have still got to stand up. They've still got to have the melodies. They've still got to have the appeal. But it's got to be done in a 90s way. And that means being a little more organic. Rick's playing an acoustic drum kit for the first time in years. And it sounds great. And it's also dictated a lot of the way the album should be. And consequently, the guitar players are playing with more a direct Marshall-type sound as opposed to a more synthesized sound.
Yeah.
That's going through all these little boxes and you know, making it very compressed and everything. It's a lot. It's more organic album, basically. And it'll still sound Def Leppard. He's still singing on it, and we're still doing the harmonies, you know.